This exam application tutorial is on the topic of extracting metals. The question for 6 marks: explain the difference in the method of extraction of aluminium and iron from their ores. So what this is asking you to do is state the reactivity of iron, aluminium in relation to carbon, and then describe how we extract iron from its ore using carbon, and then we describe how we extract aluminium from its ore using electricity and not carbon. So firstly, if we look at the reactivity series, iron is less reactive than the very cheap element carbon. You can see iron is below carbon. Whereas aluminium is more reactive than carbon, that's why it's above it. So that deals with our first sub-question. Now, how do we extract iron using carbon? So by heating a less reactive metal such as iron or copper ore, for example, which is iron or copper oxide with carbon, and heating it, then we create carbon dioxide and the metal without the oxygen. So I realise this says copper, but the question asks for iron. The principle is just the same. So this process is called reduction. So we can reduce iron oxide, not just iron oxide, by heating it with carbon. And this produces iron and carbon dioxide. So in this reaction, carbon has been oxidized to form carbon dioxide, and iron oxide has been reduced to form iron. It's worth mentioning that this is a cheap method of extraction because carbon is dirt cheap. I mean, literally, it's soot. A lot more energy is required to separate aluminium from its oxide. To do this, we have to use a process called electrolysis. So if you remember, that involves heating the ore until it melts. So now we have molten aluminium oxide, and then you have to use electrolysis. And this is where we use a direct current to break down aluminium oxide. So you can see here the current is causing aluminium to form and the oxygen gas to form, but they're separated. And it's worth noting that this is a more expensive method of extraction, and that's why it's recommended that we recycle aluminium. There have been some questions which require you to talk about the relative cost of each method. This isn't one of them, but I put it in there just so it's in your memory. So you don't need to write these 2 points for full marks.